Thank you. Okay, so here we have the 25, just in case.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Spirits of Society of Virginia on this beautiful morning. And today's message is a little different. It's from the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 5, paragraph 25. That's the section. Of course, the chapter is called Blessed Are the Afflicted. And this message was written by Francois de Genevieve from Bordeaux. And it's entitled Melancholy. Do you know why sometimes a vague sadness fills your heart, leading you to consider that life is bitter? This is because your spirit, aspiring to happiness and liberty, on finding itself tied to the physical body that acts like a prison, becomes exhausted through vain efforts to seek release. On recognizing that these attempts are useless, the soul becomes discouraged, and as the body suffers the influence of the spirit, it feels weary, apathetic, full of despondency, and it is then that you judge yourself unhappy. Believe me when I tell you to resist these tendencies with all your strength, as they only weaken your willpower. Aspirations for a better life are inborn in all humanity, but do not seek them in this world. Now that God is sending his spirits to instruct you about the happiness he has reserved for you, wait with patience for the time when the liberating angel will come to help you break away from the ties that hold your spirit captive. Remember, during your exile here on earth, you have a mission to fulfill that you do not sometimes even suspect, be it dedicating yourself to your family or fulfilling the various obligations bestowed upon you by God. If within the course of this exiled probation, while seeking exoneration, you feel about to collapse through anxiety, uneasiness, or tribulations, be strong and courageous enough to support these pressures. Stand up to them with resolution, for they will soon pass. These are the only means by which you can reach those for whom you pine and who, jubilant at seeing you once again, will hold out their hands towards you to guide you to regions inaccessible to earthly affliction. This message makes us all think, because Spiritism gives us the knowledge of the afterlife, and sometimes we aspire to the afterlife, but we're here on this material plane. And three things: joy of living, which sometimes is difficult; courage and hope. We must have the courage to have the hope to know that we will eventually reach that beautiful heavenly place with work. But never lose hope. Thank you.
In the book, The Messengers, chapter 18, Andre Luiz shares with us that prayer is not a petition. It's actually true surrender to God. So that's what we're going to do now. Practice this surrender to God. Forget about everything in our lives. Just feel ourselves as the spirits right now. Remember, this life is passing. What we have is us. Not the body, not this temporary personality, but us. And it's in the encounter with God that we find ourselves. So let us exercise this in this prayer as we feel the presence of God. Dear God, it is always an immense joy to realize that you're always with us. You are the only power in this universe. No being is more powerful than you. You sustain our lives. You give us life. And we are here today to find you more closely inside of us. The world may not remember why we're all here. And we see many of us wasting time in foolish, envious, jealous competition, whereas you have brought us here for true collaboration, in the hope of a new tomorrow inside of us. We want to gather new elements to display in our daily life, not to show, but to really manifest the courage of being coherent with everything that we already know. Reverent to your messengers, the directors of the Spiritual Society of Virginia, who guide our lives. Master Jesus, who is our shepherd of love and peace. We ask your permission to begin this moment of learning, serving, loving with you. Thank you, Lord, and so be it. Friends, before we begin, we want to remind you that they are not listening to. There is voice. Everybody's here. You can hear? Yeah, they can hear. But thank you, yeah. Really, the YouTube is not? Okay. Meanwhile, while we check the other things, just to remind everyone that we started, besides the homeless service, we have the baby supply drive, which is for the Birthright, an organization that we have been helping for 10 years. And they help so many babies, mothers who cannot, buy all this because it's expensive, very expensive. Very expensive. To just knew it, we would be more grateful to our parents. And in 2 weeks, we have a special event with a fundraiser with the Brazilian Lunch. Outside, hopefully, and lots of good things. We have much to share. And today, before I go inside with the kids, because I'm going to have fun, then our friend Daisy is going to help us understand when we're constantly invited to help. And the help is not like traveling to Africa and helping. It's inside of our family first. She has a lot to share. I better stop and go. I'll see you later. Let's go.
Okay, friends, welcome. So today we are all receiving an invitation. It's a special invitation coming directly from Jesus himself, invitation to help. We're gonna together study and discuss a case that is in this book, and life goes on. If you haven't read the book, we highly recommend you. It's truly a soap opera. We don't need to go to Netflix or to the Brazilian TV to read. Truly, and we're gonna just see a glimpse today, because we cannot tell you the ins and outs of everything that will happen in this book. But this, interesting enough, is also a movie. It's available on YouTube, and I believe there might be subtitles in English. So, of course, reading the book, it's much more detail, goes in much more in depth. But we highly recommend also the movie, because you see, this is not something that is out there, a story that, of someone that is far away. This is what is happening in our daily lives. And that's exactly what Emmanuel starts in the preface of the book. Because we know Chico Xavier psychographed over 500 books. And then we might ask ourselves, why do we need 500 books? Don't we all have the same message? And it's interesting because Emmanuel brings to us in each of the preface the reason why. It's not just another book to count, right? It is because each of these books, they are unique. And he says right here that in this book, we learn that the greater the learning of an incarnate spirit, the more dolorous the results of time wasted. So you see, the main characters of this book, they didn't have the knowledge that we have. They, as far as we know, one of them had an idea of the spiritual knowledge. One of the characters was more religious, but we have access to all of this. So Emmanuel is saying, when we get to the spiritual realm, we will truly suffer more if we waste our time. So that's why we're here, to be called for help. He says, the more rebellious an individual is before the truth, the more grievous the consequence of his or her stubbornness. So we're all called today as invitation for help. And he says, after our passage into the spirit world, we'll find our own spiritual portrait in the situations we forge, either regarding us for the good they produce or the evil that they establish. So Emmanuel is reminding us that after we discarnate, it's not that we will go to what we have for such a long time. In many religious believe that we either go to heaven or to hell. No, we were going to continue, and we'll continue living the lives. We still have the connections that we forged here. So it's an important thing for us to think. It's not all of a sudden we're not going to have this connection with our partners, with our family, with our parents, with our children. So as Vanessa said, we want to help. We don't need to go to Africa to end poverty there, although it's a very honorable task. But if we inside our own homes, we're not helping, because that will translate to when we go to the spirit realm. So let's introduce the main characters of this story. The book starts in chapter 1 with Evelina and Ernesto. They quote unquote, and we say this in quotes because we know nothing is by chance, but they meet randomly, sitting in a park. We will see, is this random when we come across people in our lives? We think we're there. She was there just sitting, observing nature. And then someone approaches and sits beside her and they start a conversation. And is that truly random? How people coming into our lives? We'll see it's not. So they start talking and they find out that they have something in common. They are both suffering from the same illness. They are both about to have a big surgery. Interesting enough, the same illness, they're about to have a surgery. And they connect and they start discussing, how they are preparing physically for going through that surgery, but also how they are starting to think, what will happen if I don't come back from this surgery? Although they are both young, Evelina is much younger than Ernesto, but they're both young, but they contemplate, this can be it. What's gonna happen next? And they truly feel a connection. They cannot describe why. And they both feel like, when you meet someone and just by talking a few minutes, you feel like you go home and you're like, wow, felt like I know that person my whole life and we just met, right? Have you guys encountered that? Well, let's see, friends. So the story continues and we find out in the upcoming chapters that actually both Evelina and Ernesto discarnate. They are welcome in the spiritual hospital, in the spiritual realm, as we have here a spiritual hospital connected with the Spirit Society of Virginia. There are many spirits are there receiving treatment and are here also today listening so that they can learn as well. But it's so beautiful because you see how the guide and the mentor spirits prepare us, because it is by chance that they met here in the physical plane, and when they discarnate, they both find themselves in the same spiritual hospital. And at first, they were a little intrigued because when we go to the spirit realm, the mentors are so kind that they don't tell us right away that we discarnate. They let them start, looking at things like this looks like a hospital, but at the same time it looks different. And then slowly they start learning and they realize that they have actually passed away. And then they get to know about, okay, was this truly a chance encounter? How is our families connected? So to help us, we'll share a diagram because it can get pretty complex. So, and there are many names, and a lot of the names, they are difficult because they had to change the names, of course. Emmanuel says that this is a real story. It's not an invention. This is a story that happened in Brazil, and it's the story similar to many of us. If not on this life, not too many lives ago. So these are our main characters, Evelina and Ernesto. At first, we think there is an encounter by chance. They meet, they discarnate, they are together in the spiritual hospital. They start to learn about, the life in the spiritual realm, and they start asking questions about their families. So we get to know that Evelina was the daughter of Brigida and Desiderio. Wow. Yes, she was their daughters. They were married. And she also was married before she discarnated. Her husband was named Kyle. But Evelina actually lost her dad pretty young. She was still a young girl when her father discarnated. And we get to know that that's when the link starts. She didn't know, but Desiderio was actually her father was actually friends with Ernesto when they were young and when she was a little girl. They were really good friends. And Ernesto was also married to Elisa. They also had a daughter named Vera. And these friends, they hang out like we do today. They like to do things together. And they had another friend, Amancio. They were like the three musketeers. They were together. They liked to go out to hunt. And something was happening behind the scenes. And that's when the story gets interesting or twisty. Well, although Desiderio was married, right, to Brigida, and Ernesto was married to Elisa. Well, Desiderio and Elisa, they felt an infatuation one or another. Nothing actually materialized itself, but that friend of your husband, she would see him once in a while. They would exchange, flirts and looked at one another, and they had an infatuation. Well, do you think that passed by Ernesto without him realizing it? Oh no, he could see. And he describes in the book that he would get extremely jealous of his wife because she could see the infatuation between them. So, as you can imagine, he wasn't happy, right? Who is this man coming to my home flirting with my wife? Well, at the same time that this was happening, his other friend, Amancio, Amancio felt the same for Brigida. He looked at Desiderio's wife and he said, how come? Well, you are there having eyes for someone else's wife. How about your wife, Brigida? So it starts in this, right, love triangle here that is happening, although they are married. But in one day, as they usually went, they went out hunting together. Well, and in that scenario, Ernesto and Amancio found the perfect place to carry out their plans. They said, without knowing of each other's plans, they were like, we're here in the woods with guns, shooting, and what if an accident happens, Maybe I can eliminate my rival from this story. Can we really eliminate someone from our lives, friends? Can we cross someone out, either by killing them physically, not speaking to them, or not talking to them or ignoring them? Can we really cross someone out? No, we will learn in this story. Even if we physically kill someone, that person, we are all spirits. Do they go away? No, they don't go away. But in that scenario, well, Ernesto saw an opportunity to eliminate Desiderio. You're not going to flirt with my wife anymore. So, in an attempt, he tries to kill him. Well, it turns out that he wasn't successful in his shop, but he thought for sure, he heard, he aimed, when he saw that, he might have been hit, he ran away, but his friend Amancio was there. And without knowing of each other's plan, he also had a plan to kill Desiderio. He said, I will also make this look as an accident. Because at the end of the day, I'm his wife, Brigida. So that's what happens, friend. In this scenario, Desiderio discarnates. Amancio was actually the one that aimed and got him killed, although Ernesto felt guilty for the rest of his life because, in that whole scenario, he thought he was the one that had actually aimed at him. But it's interesting because, as we said, we discarnate, but our connections continue. Well, in the story, we learn that Amancio then gets married with Brigida. He actually raises Evelina in his home. And then we also get to know Evelina in the spirit realm finds out, well, the connection of the families, they don't end there. Because while she was married with Kyle, he had an affair while she was sick with Vera, which was Ernesto's daughter. Wow. You guys breathing in and out? Are we following this drama? Because it is quite interesting, right? So was that meeting really by chance at that park? Wow, we see the connections right here, right? The families are all intertwined. And friends, this is not bringing previous lives. We don't even know what happens, because can we imagine the intertwining of things? This is just this life, okay? Just for us to see what is happening here. Well, but there's one more piece to the puzzle, and that's the piece that we will focus today. Although Desiderio discarnated, he found himself in the spiritual realm, first filled with rage, because how come both of his best friends tried to kill him on the same day, right? He felt betrayed. But then at the same time, he felt abandoned. I don't have a home anymore. My wife, Brigida, remarried. My daughter is being taken care by another man who is in the home, serving as the father. So he found comfort in Elisa's arm. Yes, she was still incarnated. But the infatuation between them, remember? That flirting, that, we talked on Friday for those who hear our life and sex study about, as we think, we connect. So we might not be physically cheating, but there is cheating by thoughts. And that's exactly what happened. Desiderio in the spirit realm comes back and stays connected with Elisa. But friends, there's no victims. Oh, poor Elisa, now she's being obsessed. No. She called him. Although he had discarnated, she remembered him. The message of today, right? Thinking about melancholy. That's dangerous. And that's exactly what happened. Elisa imprisoned herself through her own thoughts. And Desiderio find there a place where he felt that someone at least loved him, right? Because at the end of the day, if we talk with all the spirits, especially in these obsession meetings, we see that at the end of the day, everyone wants to be loved and understood. So let us focus on this scenario right here. Let us recap. Evelina and Ernesto in the spirit realm, they are getting to know about this family drama. Elisa, still incarnated, although really sick, she's going through deep depression and obsession because of this connection with Desiderio, right? So our main characters are invited to help. And that's what brings us to our invitation. So in the spirit realm, talking with mentor rebus, they say, well, what can we do? This is our family, it's our connections. These connections, they not go away. We want to help. What can we do? So friends, let us make a parenthesis, because a lot of people think that their loved ones discarnate. And they pray, can you please come, mom, dad, uncle, aunt, grandmother, grandfather, come help me. But this is dangerous, and that's why we want to emphasize this. And Evelina and Ernesto were invited to help because they were open and ready. Although they were still adjusting to the spirit realm, they were still learning. They had the tools. But our loved ones who discarnate, they don't necessarily are ready to help us yet. And if we continue calling them, we will sometimes harm them even further because they want to help us and they might not be able to because they need help themselves. So yes, we can pray for them, pray that they are supported and helped, but who is the one who can help us when we need help? Well, God, of course, Jesus, and we have a guardian angel. Most of the times we forget we have someone assigned to be by our side every single day, 24/7, friends. They don't get tired. They don't go to sleep and forget the clock and forget about us. And they're like, oh, yes, let me go there. I am Paloma's guardian angel. I should be by her side. No, they are there. But it depends on us to connect with them. So we can ask for help ourselves. Although today we are invited to help. But coming back to our story, Ernesto and Evelina are invited to help the family. And this is the scenario that they found. Remember, Elisa is sick. She is still incarnated. But as you can see, and we know this is pretty strong images, but they truly illustrate the scenario for us. She is so disturbed because this infatuation with Desiderio, he is now in the spiritual realm, remember, filled with rage, as we can see in this picture. And he is keeping her grounded. She's going insane because she sees him, she has these conversations, she sees her ex-husband, right, that has passed away, Ernesto, that comes to visit, and she's disturbed, like, I am infatuated with this man who is now in this, toxic relationship, right, in this obsession, and she is stuck. So neither of them are helping one another. Desiderio thinks he's helping, but he's not. So how can they help this, right? What can they do? Well, that's when Evelina comes in. Evelina comes in to speak with her father. And that is the dialogue. And we want to read excerpts because we cannot explain this with the words that Evelina uses. So we're going to read this dialogue So let us keep this picture in our minds and let us hear this dialogue, because we think Desiderio is someone else out there, but it is all of us. How can we get rid of the sentiments of revenge, of jealousy sometimes, of those relationships that we haven't yet made peace with or resolved? How can we think different? So Evelina will come and she's going to have a conversation with her father. So remember, he discarnated when she was a little girl. So it's the first time she's seeing her father after so many years. And that's how the conversation goes. Evelina fixed her gaze on her wretched father in a display of radiant and kind tenderness. He saw himself in soft light that she wasn't needing. He saw himself in the misery of a prisoner who had remained for years and years at the bottom of a cell without the least regard for himself. He thought of himself as a monster in front of an angel, and like a beaten, wounded dog, he intended to crawl away and escape. Friends, that's what happens a lot of time. Evelina, she was still learning too, but she was already in a more elevated place of feelings and thoughts than her dad. So when he sees her and sees the light, he feels ashamed. And that's what happened a lot with the suffering spirits when they see the mentors coming to help them. She says, Father, and he responds, so is it really you, my dear child? Is it really you who God has sent to ask the impossible of me? My dear Father, of course, God is blessing our meeting again. But in fact, the two of us are the agents, not of the impossible, but of our reunion in his name, in the name of our Creator and Father of mercy. And then he says, well, do you see what they have done to me? Those criminals who destroy us. So he's feeling pretty enraged, right? She says, Father, you mustn't blame anyone. You must have suffered, but pain is always blessed in God's sight. You have endured difficult trials, but we know that every day is an opportunity for renewal and higher destinations. So you can see the tormentors are yours too. That we are both robbed by the same crooks. If in heaven there is a memory of evil, let me remind you about Amancio, the monster who took the role of your stepfather. So now in the dialogue, friends, he will start going through each of the people in his life and each of his resentment. First with the man who married his wife, who has taken the place of his daughter's stepfather. And Evelina says, would you be angry with me if I told you that he wanted what was best for me and that he always respected as if I was his own daughter? While we cannot deny that he committed a grave wrong against you before the divine laws, I believe that the repentance that he has been carrying inside for more than 20 years speaks of the regeneration that has turned him into a good man. He never refused to help me and never objected to my desire to get married. During my childhood, he encouraged me to study and show interest in my grades and praise my goodwill with the love and gifts that only you could have given me. It is true my stepfather never replaced you in my heart, But your daughter cannot be ungrateful towards someone who gave her so much. At home, he was always the guardian of our happiness. I never saw him do the least thing to displease my mother. Ah, wow. Now she brings the mother into the story. Oh, don't speak about Bridget, that shameful woman. Oh, dear father, why do you condemn the one who brought us together? What could my still young mother have done to raise me without the support of a companion? By accepting a monster's help, she wasn't deliberately marrying the unfortunate hunter who caused your discarnation, but rather the friend that you yourself brought home one day, according to Mom's recollections in her memories of longing and discouragement. I want you to know that she always taught me to revere your memory and to honor your name. Friends, let's pause here for a moment. Because this dialogue, we see that we see people through our lens. Desiderio see his friend who killed him with his lens, right? He is a murderer. But Evelina is coming to show him that, yes, we have our lens. Imagine one camera, one angle, but there are many angles. And that's why we forget. Because we look at people and we have a disagreement or we have a misunderstanding, and we are seeing them with our lens. She's not disregarding her dad's feeling, but she's saying, let me show you how I see him. Let me show you this different lens. Because for me and my mom, he was a loving father. He treated me as his daughter. He was loving and kind to my mom. In Desiderio's eyes, his wife had exchanged him quickly for someone else as soon as he's discarnate. That is the lens that he's seeing. But she's saying, Dad, let us change the lens. Let us change the perspective. My mom was young when you discarnate. How she could have raised me without the help of someone else? So friends, this is an exercise for us. We know it is hard. For Desiderio, he was killed. But she's saying, Evelina is saying, there's always a different angle. There are many angles. These are just two of them. So we put people in boxes. Murder, cheater, betrayal. But there are a different lens because we are children of God. So let us continue because there's more for us. Well, now he's gonna talk about Ernesto. Well, you might have forgotten, but there is another piece of this family, he says to her. I cannot forgive Ernesto, the traitor who tried to kill me, providing your stepfather with the ideal situation to take my life. This woman, dead to others but alive in my hands, she was his wife. Blinded by jealousies, Ernesto meant to kill me, but instead he only succeeded in bringing me closer to her. Friends, in this part in the story, Elisa, she has discarnated. But because of this connection, Desiderio was keeping her hostage. But the mentor spirits couldn't finalize the disincarnation process, disconnecting her from her physical body, because she was intertwined in this connection with him. So that's why he says, this woman here, poor her. I'm here, I'm trying to be the loving husband that she didn't have. So then Evelina says, who can know God's designs, Father? Are we all experiencing our testimonies of love in light of the wrongs and commitments of our past lives? Ernesto, you should know that he has been a dedicated friend in the spiritual world. Long before he knew my connection to your heart, he cared for me, restoring my energies. At every step on this new pathway, he has been a support and a true brother. Evelina, my daughter, you must have acquired the goodness of angels to see criminals as benefactors. But I cannot see human creatures through heavenly eyes. I am a man, simply an unfortunate man. In spite of everything, I cannot believe you can hold such regard for a man who has your own tormentor in your own home. That criminal evading prison masquerade right here in front of us. So now he brings another piece of the puzzle. He asks, well, my daughter, you can see everyone's through a different lens, but how about your husband? Did you forget that your husband, Kyle, was cheating on you with Ernesto's daughter before you discarnated? So, friends, how did Evelina turn the situation? She says, but why despise those that have been the object of your love when we realize that they are not as happy as we thought? Friends, let us read this again. How can we despise those who have been the object of our love when we realize they're not as happy as we thought? Do we think, friends, in this whole scenario of this story, people are truly happy? They are not happy. And that's what she's saying. Let us look at people with different eyes. Don't you think that your delinquent brothers and sisters are ill and in need of attention? Why not show compassion for the victims of insanity as we do with the casualty of disasters that rob their lives? Are the maimed in spirit any different from the maimed in the body? Father, hasn't it ever occurred to you that we are all God's children and we depend on each other? Don't you want to move on and free yourself and be happy? So then comes to the top of the story, friends. She will show her father how she could do it. She says, I too felt the same way, threatened unfairly. On many occasions, I thought my mother's stepfather has enemies who want me out of the house so that I wouldn't come between them and their happiness. But in the institute where I was taken by God's mercy, I began to consider them as true friends, and I received the support that I could assimilate. After seeing Kyle, her ex-husband, so deeply attached to Vera, I wowed in profound anguish, and until a few days ago, believing my earthly husband had to be a very ungrateful man. At the same time, I criticized Vera as an intruder and a thief of love I had on earth. Friends, our connections here. Evelina is sharing, she felt pretty hurt, but why? Because we think that our husband, our wife, our father, our mother, we see them in their roles. She was seeing Kyle in his role as a husband. Then she got hurt. But when she changed the lens and she saw, well, in this life, he was in the role of my husband. But at the end of the day, we're all brothers and sisters. So, yes, maybe in this life we were together as husband and wife. It doesn't mean we will come back together again as husband and wife. Maybe we will, but maybe we won't. We don't know. So, why staying stuck or look at people with these eternal eyes? So then she says, I recover my balance and conclude that Kyle and Vera are our true brothers and sisters. They are what they are, just as we are what we are. And God expects us to love each other in the way He allows us. It is indispensable, dear Father, that we understand and help each other and that we move on. Friends, she says, it's indispensable that we understand and help each other. We must press on, redeeming the debts of yesterday so that our tomorrow can be better. The Almighty has planted flowers and blessings all along the pathway. Understanding this makes us look for the path, and helping others will help us in the course. Love never fails, and God has created us for boundless love. By helping others, we are helped, friends. That is the key for us today. If we wanted to be helped in our lives, we need to help others, starting like Evelyn is doing within her own family, because we'll only be helped if we helped. And that there's the question that her father asks her, that a lot of people ask. But my daughter, doesn't such selflessness means moral suicide? How many people think that if we forgive, that if we understand, that if we help, we're weak? We are the greater, the better, if we have the last word, if we are the ones putting others down. That is us, our ego, friends. She says, Father, true love is higher than that. I now understand that distorted affections can be corrected in the Holy Institute of Family through reincarnation. God allows us to embrace as children the same individuals that we were not able to love under different sentimental circumstances. Our thoughts of tender for each other will one day be free and pure. Friends, they continue the dialogue, and her father is still so hardened. He cannot let go. He says, yes, I understand what you're saying. I cannot let go. And that's when comes the most beautiful moment in this story. Evelina now, she knew just one thing to do, to ask God for help. At this time, the highest, most touching moment of the reunion took place. With her hands on her father's head, Evelina raised her eyes to heaven and pleaded, O God of all goodness, my father and I are here, the two remaining members of a large spiritual family that is scattered for now. Granted us, O most merciful God, if it is your will, perseverance in harmony under the same yearning for redemption. Her voice, however, stuck in her throat, suffocated with grief, and as she bent towards her father's brow, the tears that were streaming down her face like a divine balm reached the unhappy Desidero, transfiguring his soul. Touched by concealed energies, Desiderio let a painful groan and immediately released the dead woman's hand. Embracing his daughter's feet, he cried out fervently, Oh, Evelina, Evelina, my child, take whatever you wish. I trust you. Appease the fire in my spirit that has known only hate. Help me, God. Help me, God. That's how this part of the story ends, friends. And you have continued reading the book to see what will happen next in the story. But we'll end tonight, or this morning actually, with this invitation to help. Jesus is our guiding model. He's the one that's there helping us, friends. But we need to help ourselves. And Evelina brought us the key. We'll only help ourselves as we help others. How can we do this? Evelina, in this dialogue today, brought us the remedy. We see situations and people through one lens. We put people in boxes, situation in boxes, but let us think about this 360 view. Let us think not how the person and how they are today, but in our eternal eyes. Yes, today they have this personality, but we're all brothers and sisters. So the mentors at Spiritual Side of Virginia always teaches us, think of the person, not of what they are right now, but their immortal self. They might not be there yet, but they will get there. And that's how we can free ourselves. Desiderio was in a prison that he created for himself. He put himself in the victim's shoes. I was murdered. I was betrayed. Poor me. And we see how he not only imprisoned himself, but he imprisoned others. So, to truly free ourselves, we are invited today to start helping. First, within our own families, our own homes. And when we think, is it too hard? I cannot do this. Let us keep this image in our minds. Jesus is with us. It's not by chance that people are in our lives. We saw in the story, Ernesto and Evelina thought it was a random encounter at the park. And here they found out how intertwined their families were. So let us do our part, friends, because this life is passing, but what awaits us in the spiritual realm? So now we will transition to our next portion of today, which will be our passes. So we will dim the lights. We will play our virtual passes before our final prayer.
Welcome to the Virtual Passes Room. Emmanuel, the spirit mentor of Chico Xavier, once stated that thought is life. Thus, we can create the healing mental state right here and now. In preparation for the virtual passes, we would kindly recommend the following. Be certain that you have a real need to receive passes. Do not use the room simply out of curiosity. Casual visits to the room will negate its future benefits when needed. When using the room, have gratitude and show respect as you would when visiting a physical spiritist center. During the passes, silently evoke God's protection as well as Jesus. Also pray to your guardian angel. Concentrate on positive thoughts, thereby avoiding negative ones. Breathe deeply, slowly, calmly, and confidently. Always be ready to pray. Let us begin this passes session by praying as our guide and model Jesus Christ has taught us. Our Father who is in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Now let us feel that small points of suffering, bitterness, sadness, anger, deception disappear from your mind, not to return. Like aged leaves that are shed from trees, let go of those feelings no longer serve you, and gently, but most assuredly, discard them. Let the wind of life carry them so far away that they are unable to return and create their negative link. Little by little, your emotional tree sheds its negative feelings, becoming clean and ready for its renovation. Without the weight of those dead leaves, you feel lighter and you're able to feel the gentle water of life now abundantly falling onto your physical body, spiritual body, and soul. This water cleans, disinfects, purifies, deconstructs, and tones all the cells of your body. Nothing can escape its renewing action. At the same time, it is cleaning and moisturizing your body. This crystalline liquid satiates your spirit, eliminating affliction, anxiety, and unrest. Now, within your heart, resides a sense of calmness, cleanness, and well-being. Then, the light of God emerges to warm and snuggle you, while carrying rays penetrate your whole body and tenderly embrace you like a maternal hug, which brings comfort and safety to your heart. At this moment, great love warms your heart and removes the coldness resulting from any affliction. Now, your mind contains only feelings of joy and confidence. You are at peace and enveloped by a protective warmth. The heart of life offers you perfumed flowers. Then, with grateful and happy soul, you gather their colorful petals that penetrate your whole being, restoring feelings and emotions of happiness, hope, faith, courage, and determination, helping you to regain the willingness to live. In addition to the perfume and color, nature also shares with you the best it has to offer, an infinite capacity for restoring its sublime beauty, even when struck by evil that appears to enact its end. Divine hands full of light gently overflow and spill all over you like a golden waterfall of unspeakable and unknown essence. Little by little, your soul is impregnated with sweet happiness, allowing an inner renewal of the most noble and elevated purposes that are of progress and accomplishment. Showered by this sublime power, you deeply surrender to the donor of light, absorbing energy that now gives your life a new and blessed impulse. You called me, and here I am. What do you want from me today? What do you need? Ask, my son. Ask, my daughter. I am here to help. Now, ask your special request to Jesus, enumerating the problems and difficulties that afflict you. I listen to your request with love and attention. Now I count on your faith and trust in me to solve your problems. Go in peace. I am watching over you, and I will not lose sight of you. Believe in God and also believe in me. I will be with you every day until the end. Be happy. Many blessings.
Let us pray, dear friends, keeping this feeling of direct connection with God. Let us express our gratitude for this moments of healing and learning. Dear God, we are here reflecting, feeling together the lesson of today. We understand the call to be a divine presence in each of our homes, for exercising our power of co-creation, to be divine tools in this incarnation. We understand, dear God, the importance of doing the good at all times. We also know that we're still learning, so we pray for compassion for ourselves and for others. We pray for tolerance in our actions. We pray for patience and serenity when we make mistakes. And we pray for courage and strength, as we certainly need it, for us to face our downfalls, our shortcomings, at the same time that we're looking into the future. We feel stronger today because of this message, and we are grateful for Emmanuel and Chico Xavier for bringing it to us. We thank you, dear Lord, for allowing us to be here, to the mentors of the Spirit Society of Virginia and Kardec Radio for bringing this message in this study session. And with your protection and your permission always, we ask to close this meeting of today, and so be it. Thank you, dear friends.